Hey, this is Adam Torres, and I'm here to tell you that it has never been easier to start your very own podcast. At Mission Matters, our goal is to amplify stories that matter. That means we want to help you start your podcast because your story matters. We can do this in 3 different ways. 1, join our podcast school and take a free or paid course. 2, visit our resources page where we've already figured out what you need, such as where to host your podcast. Or 3, heck, we can even do everything for you through our podcast agency, including editing for cheaper than you can do in-house. Oh, and no contract, service is month to month. Get started by heading over to missionmatters.com and click on Start a Podcast. All right, now let's get into the show. Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Innovation Podcast, your source for all things innovation. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Peter Voss on the line, and he is founder, CEO, and chief scientist over at Aigo.ai. Peter, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Adam, for having me.
So, Peter, I'm excited to get into a little bit further into your intelligent cognitive assistant known as Aigo. But before we do that, just to give the audience a little bit more on your background, tell us a little bit more about how you got started in your career and in business.
Okay. Yes, I thought I was an electronics engineer, and then I discovered programming software, fell in love with software. And so I had an electronics company that turned into a software company. I developed ERP software system, became quite successful. Actually did an IPO. That was super exciting. But it's really that experience and the flexibility I got through doing the IPO allowed me to figure out how can we build software that actually has some intelligence? How can we build software that can learn and think and reason more like humans? Because normal software, you know, if the programmer didn't think of something, it just has an error or does something really silly. So I spent 5 years researching intelligence. What is intelligence? You know, how do children learn? How does our intelligence differ from animals? What do IQ tests measure? And really even epistemology, theory of knowledge. How do we know anything? What is our relationship to reality? And really deeply understanding cognition. And so I spent 5 years doing this, and during that period I came up with a design for a cognitive engine. And in fact, 2001 I coined the term artificial general intelligence, or AGI, to distinguish this from the narrow AI that pretty much everybody is doing. It's really going back to the original dream of AI, to build thinking machines. And so that's been sort of my 20-year journey. And for the last 15 years, we've been developing and commercializing conversational AI, or, you know, a smart assistant, an assistant that can actually think and learn and reason. So that's what's been my passion for the last 2 decades or so.
Oh, that's exciting. And I think that's a good transition to getting into Aigo.ai. So first off, tell us a little bit more about the company, please.
Yes, so the Aigo.ai is actually has developed the second generation of our technology. The first generation, we commercialized a company called Smart Action Company, starting in 2008. And what Smart Action does is it utilizes this cognitive engine to automate phone calls, you know, that we all hate when we call into a company and we have to press 1 for this or 2 for, everybody says, I hate those things.
Yes. I don't know anybody that's like, I can't wait to navigate this one. That's not happening.
Right. So in Smart Action, we basically offer a much better experience where it actually understands natural language and remembers what you said earlier in the conversation and so on. However, I exited the company 6 years ago to start Aigo.ai to take the technology to the next level. And for 5 years, we were just in development mode. And then last year, we actually launched commercially the second generation. And our current focus is on providing much more intelligent chat to all sorts of different applications, whether it's for e-commerce as personalized concierge assistant that helps you, buy things or troubleshoot things, or whether it's for somebody to help them manage diabetes, or whether it's in a VR, IR, virtual reality or augmented reality domain where you actually want to be able to talk to the system in natural language. So there are many different applications that we can now cover with this technology.
So a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, executives out there listening to this right now. A lot of them in Mountain View and other tech hubs across the country and world. And some people you have their attention right now. But at the end of this, I'm going to give you the opportunity to leave your contact information or wherever you'd like to direct the traffic so people can follow up. But what kind of companies do you find are typically a good fit to work with Aigo at this point?
Right. So right now, even though our technology would be able to give a much better experience, for a Siri or an Alexa or so, for commercial reasons, we've chosen not to go after the consumer market at this stage, but to go after enterprise, large enterprise customers. And I don't want to name any names here right now, but, very large e-commerce companies, banks, insurance companies, and also telecom companies. We have some very strong interest from medical companies, as I mentioned, for example, diabetes management. What we do is we work with those large companies to deploy our technology behind their firewall. So we're not offering it as a SaaS service because it just makes it a lot easier, and the large companies are much more comfortable having it behind their firewall, basically. So we help them integrate Aigo into their existing technology stack, usually in the cloud. And basically, all the big companies we come across are super frustrated with the limitations of current chatbot technology. Many of them have gone through trying, all the big names of chatbot technology, and they really find the adoption rate is abysmal, and customer satisfaction is not great. And there's a very simple reason for that the current chatbots out there are non-cognitive, or to put it simply, they don't have a brain. And they don't remember what you said 2 sentences ago, never mind what you said last week or last month. They don't have deep understanding. They just do statistical keyword type recognition. So for example, if I say I hate Uber, don't ever give me Uber again, chances are it will still trigger the Uber app because it latches onto the keywords. So they don't have memory, they don't have deep understanding, and they have no reasoning ability, of does something actually make sense. So they can't learn interactively. And that's just, imagine you had a personal assistant, a human who didn't remember what you said 2 sentences ago, or who didn't, really understand the sentences you're saying, and didn't remember and didn't learn. They wouldn't last very long. And this is basically, these are the limitations we are overcoming with this cognitive architecture, the cognitive approach that we have. That is a chatbot with a brain.
So, this next question, it's going to be kind of broad, and I don't mean it as a loaded question, Peter, but I mean, it's an interesting,
Sure.
I'm interested to hear your answer because you've been in the space so long that you've seen a lot. You kind of have a different, I would argue, vantage point than most that are operating in the space. What excites you right now? Like, what is that thing that just wakes you up and you're like, oh man, this is exciting. I can't wait.
Well, the fact that we are now, that we've just launched our second generation of this technology, with Aigo is just super exciting. I mean, I couldn't imagine wanting to do anything else. And as it happens, we actually are just about to go live with our first really big customer, probably this week. So,
Wow.
It couldn't be better. We've had a few smaller implementations with Aigo. Well, obviously we've had lots of implementations with the previous company, but this is super exciting again after 5 or 6 years of developing the technology and getting everything in place to now really see this go out, to be used by eventually millions of people.
So this one I just have to throw out there for the small businesses out there. So do you see? I know you said you didn't go the SaaS route. I know, and I understand the reasoning behind and why as a business it makes sense to do what you're doing, going to the enterprise level. Do you, just for us small businesses out there, do you foresee, if you had your crystal ball, ever scaling to not scaling, but offering kind of this type of technology to the little guy?
Oh, absolutely. It's just a matter of how quickly we can get to that. So absolutely, and in fact, there's sort of a fairly obvious path for us even to get to the consumer. And I'll give 2 examples here. The one of them is we've actually developed an application where Aigo is a front end to Salesforce. We all know salespeople hate using Salesforce. So
except for the ones listening to this right now that are from Salesforce. I'm just playing. We still want your advertising dollars, Salesforce. It's okay, Peter.
Okay. It's not that there's anything wrong with Salesforce. Let me clarify. It's just salespeople don't have the kind of good salespeople typically don't want to spend their time updating databases and stuff, and they want to keep the information to themselves and all, for all sorts of
reasons. I just had to pull your leg on that one. Go ahead.
No, of course. So, if you can have Aigo that you can just ask, hey, tell me about my next appointment. What are their hobbies? What product are they interested? Do they have any kids? Whatever. And then when you're done with your appointment, you can just say to Aigo, hey, remind me next Monday to follow up. Set this to high priority. Send them brochure X, and let my boss know what's going on. Then salespeople are much more likely to actually be able to update and use CRM tools like that. But there's a very obvious path then to them using this in their personal lives, because then they'll say to Aigo, hey, Aigo, remind me to pick up the kids on the way home. And, then their spouse will want an Aigo as well. So we see how people using it in their daily lives, and from starting a business, how they will then use it in their personal lives. And then obviously once we sort of, as you go to consumer version, we obviously then have to provide this as a SaaS service, and then smaller businesses can benefit from this as well. The other example would be if you're using it for diabetes management. Initially, it might be your health provider that provides you with an Aigo, but once you have Aigo, then of course you could use it for all sorts of other things in your personal life.
That's awesome. I love it. Makes a lot of sense, and I love to see where you're at with the technology. And congrats on that big launch today, implementing this for a client. So, Peter, if somebody is listening to this and they want more information on Aigo and they fit that bill of, being an enterprise level client at the moment, not ready for the small businesses yet, what's the best way for them to connect and to follow up and reach out?
Yeah, the simplest way is to contact us at Aigo.ai, AIGO.ai. You can even email me, Peter at Aigo.ai. For those more interested in our technology, I've actually written quite a lot of articles that are available on medium.com. Again, my name, Peter Voss, and you'll find all those articles there.
Fantastic. Well, Peter, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about your background and all the great work that you're doing over at Aigo.ai. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review in the Apple iTunes store. And if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Innovation, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments in the video. Love to know what kind of projects and things that you're working on. And Peter, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you, Adam. It was great.